It's beautiful. And if you want to go on an emotional journey, it's definitely worth the watch. Definitely worth the watch. And if you're willing to watch it and then go come back, awesome. Or come back. Go watch it and then come back. Hello, and welcome to Embodying Mystical Mac. If you're new here, thank you so much for stopping by. If you are returning, thank you so much for coming back. Today, I have a commentary episode for you, whether you're listening on the podcast or watching on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, I do have a treat for you when it comes to my makeup. Definitely went all out for this one. And I've actually gotten compliments on it, which might just start doing this makeup regularly, guys, because, if you know, and if you're here, you probably know. But if you don't, and you just like to listen to me talk about stuff, then I am really grateful for that. And my makeup is straight out of the movie that I'm going to be talking about. So, super excited for all that before we dive into my Belle commentary video / podcast episode. I just want to remind you all that on the YouTubes, I am on my road to my first 1,000 subscribers. And so if you are there, I would really, truly appreciate your help. If you could throw a like and a comment as well to help me out with the algorithm, that would be even better. But just the subscribing would be super, super cool. Thank you. And if you are on the podcast, you haven't followed yet, please go ahead and give this podcast a follow. If you feel so inclined, please go ahead and leave a review, or you can wait till after the episode is done to gather your thoughts. But I'm just honestly trying to grow this Embodying Mystical Mac thing that I have going on. And all of that is a part of it. And I really appreciate your help. Next, I am going to create a proper sponsor video one of these days for this, but for now, I'm just going to remind you that I do offer tarot card readings, and you can go to calendly.com/mysticalmac. That'll be in the description if you're listening on the podcast. It'll also be in the description as well as on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. You can go there, you can book a reading. Right now, I'm doing 30-minute readings for a $20 suggested donation. So that is a steal. Go check it out. And without further ado, let's get into Belle, the Studio Chizu Belle, not the Belle from Beauty and the Beast Belle. Although this movie does have a bit of a Beauty and the Beast subplot thing, inspiration going on, okay? I'll get into more of that. But first, let's start with a spoiler-free review. Okay, because if you're new here, I do like to start these commentaries where I'm talking about media with a spoiler-free for those of you that aren't here because you know what I'm talking about, but maybe might be mildly interested. And if you're someone who, minds when things are spoiled for you, or maybe you came into this video or episode originally going, oh, that'd be interesting, and all of a sudden when I tell you the spoiler-free review, you care whether it gets spoiled or not. That is what I do it for, right? So my spoiler-free review, I'm gonna have to start with the fact that okay, before I dive deeply into my spoiler-free review, one of the main reasons that I wanted to make this commentary video, because if you haven't noticed, I'm like 6 months to, 9 months late to the party when it comes to when this film actually came out. In fact, I feel like I'm almost a whole year behind from when this film came out. However, I've just recently gotten into it. I was told to get into it when it was released in theaters here in LA, but I have recently gotten into it and watched it, and it just completely touched my soul. And when I went on YouTube to find people's thoughts and reviews on it, a lot of reviews and thoughts that I found out there kind of struck me as the reviewer having misunderstood certain aspects. That's not to say that a lot of the criticisms weren't valid and I didn't have some of the same criticisms, but there were a lot of things that were mentioned kind of over and over in different people's reviews that, to me, the movie gave me plenty of information to justify all of those things and to make them all make sense. And everybody that I've spoken to that really truly loves the movie, but not just loves the movie, loves the medium of anime, has really been into the medium of anime, whether they don't watch all the current stuff, it's a big part of who they are. So it's almost like I've noticed that there's sort of a through line with people that are very well primed for anime not having the same grievances that I've seen pop up time and time again on YouTube reviews about this movie. So I wanted to throw in my 2 cents because I genuinely felt like I really saw very deeply into the film and wanted to share that. So I wanted to start by clearing up some things that I perceive to be misunderstood. And with all that said, with why I desired to make this video, a podcast episode, let's get into the actual spoiler-free review, right? So this film is essentially about a girl named Chizu that is on a journey of reclaiming herself after this very traumatic loss that she experiences of one of her parents. And we find this out very early on. There's no spoilers here. She goes on this journey of reclaiming herself via a virtual world where an unexpected turn of events ensues and leads her down this journey of healing from that super traumatic loss in a really interesting and unexpected sort of way. It has elements of Beauty and the Beast for sure. And even the name Belle, it's not an illusion, an allusion with an A, an allusion to Belle from Beauty and the Beast. But it's truly, like, the people who told me, oh, it's Beauty and the Beast, but anime, I definitely feel like that was a misrepresentation. There are definitely Beauty and the Beast elements, but the Beauty and the Beast thing is less of what this movie is about than what I originally said, which is Chizu going on this journey of reclaiming herself, almost via this like weaving of the Beauty and the Beast elements in there. It's amazing if you dig anime, and I say that because some of the criticisms that I encountered from reviewers on YouTube were criticisms that when I spoke to, not when I spoke to, because it's not like I've spoken to a ton of people about this movie, but rather when those same criticisms were posed to people in my life that just kind of get anime, they were like, well, that it seems like you were given enough information. Maybe those people just don't watch anime very often, and they're not, I don't know, they're not used to how the medium can kind of go back and forth in different ways, and I'm not going to get into details until I get into spoilers. Put it like this, you just have to pay attention quite closely. And if you're someone that isn't really into anime, there's probably going to be parts where you're going to get a little lost and you're going to have to backtrack. But if you're paying attention quite closely, and even more so if you're used to the medium of anime where things can be a little bit more out of order and a little bit more nuanced, you'll pick up on those things just fine and the story will make sense to you. Regardless, though, it's an absolutely beautiful movie. It's truly cinematic, and the music is just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. I'm honestly also really glad, but really insanely just dumbfounded that they were able to find the English vocal doppelganger for the Japanese actress that voiced Chizu originally. It's uncanny how much Kylie McNeil sounds like her. And I think her name is Kaho. I think. It's incredible, though, how much Kylie McNeil definitely, obviously, is a voice in and of her own, in her own right. She has a beautiful voice. And it's not like she's trying to sound like the Japanese actress who voiced Chizu. She just happens to have a voice that has an uncanny resemblance in vocal quality and tone, which is really, really cool. It's beautiful. And if you want to go on an emotional journey, it's definitely worth the watch. Definitely worth the watch. And if you're willing to watch it and then come back, awesome. Or go watch it and then come back to this episode/video, awesome. If you are ready to have spoilers spilled upon you, in spite of not watching it, you're ready for this, awesome. This is the time to hop away if you have not seen this, because now that the spoiler-free review is through, let me end by saying this, it's incredibly heartwarming, and in my opinion, the ending was very satisfactory if you know the true story that is being told. I'm so mired by all of the just very interesting reviews that I saw on YouTube that persuaded me to make my own. But I enjoyed it. I cried many times. I felt so many things, but ultimately I felt like I gained something in having seen that film, and I'm incredibly, incredibly grateful that I get to share it here with you today and my thoughts. So from here on out, we are diving into spoilers. I'm going to do this thing. This is the part of the commentary video. If you've been here before, we kind of have a formula now. Look at how we have a formula. Whoop, whoop. We have a formula for the podcast too, whether you're watching or listening, where we go through the spoiler-free, and now I just go through the detailed notes that I have, okay? But now that we're diving into spoilers, before I go into my little detailed notes that I normally go into, let me just say the whole thing that I'm talking about, being used to anime and understanding anime and kind of having that in your head as, just in your being, as you're watching these kinds of films, is because some of the criticisms that I saw from reviewers here on YouTube regarding this film were things like, we were in present day and then all of a sudden we flashed back to the past and I couldn't tell that we flashed back to the past and it was confusing and it was this and it was that. And there were criticisms like that in my opinion just meant those people weren't watching closely enough, because in those moments you do have a little hint that tells you what's happening. It's just not a boom in your face like in Western filmmaking. All of a sudden, everything's hazy and you can tell it's a flashback. Or all of a sudden, there's a blackout and it's a flashback. Like, although this movie does make good uses. This movie does make good use of blackouts. I will say that. However, an example of what I'm saying is, we flashed back to the past and I didn't realize that we were in the past until we caught back up to the present. There's a very specific point where she talks about something happening in the past. And then she goes, oh yeah, something else happened. And that's our cue to know we're flashing back to the past. We go back to this montage of her with her mother, and basically we go from like when her mom died when she was a little kid. Oh yeah, shit, I'm so sorry. For those of you that stuck around that don't know the plot line of this, I will get into that, don't you worry. But basically, she says something else happened, and we flash back to a montage with her mom through when her mom died. And then basically we kind of keep on that trajectory until she finds the world of you. And then it kind of like serves to catch us back up to present day. However, I understand that it was kind of like done in a sneaky way, but it wasn't done without the audience being informed in some way. So that's what I mean by maybe they just weren't watching closely enough, or maybe they're just not used to the medium of anime, where like, yes, one sentence of her thoughts is enough to let the viewer know, hey, we're flashing back to the past now, you know? So that's what I mean. That's what I mean. There were quite a few misunderstandings, the things that I perceived to be misunderstandings that for me were clear as day when I was watching the film. And I'm really excited to share my detailed notes with you because I genuinely feel that this film was made really well. I felt that it was written well. I felt that things in the script were properly paid off. There were probably one or two things that I was like, oh, okay, why did we have that? But for the most part, everything was pretty much paid off. Like, there was nothing really glaring that was hanging, like left there hanging. Okay, I'm sorry. I have one criticism that was kind of like left there hanging for me personally. But it also might be like a cultural thing where, I guess when I get there, I'll explain what I mean. So for those of you that don't know, Belle is about Chizu, this girl who lost her mom when she was very little. I think she looks to be probably like 6. And she loses her mom because her mom saves another child from like a raging river, basically. Like the child's on the other side of the river. Mom goes to save the child. Mom puts her life vest on the child. Child is saved, and Suzu's mom is suddenly gone. And she basically is like a shell of who she is from that moment until the end of this movie, which is she's 17. So from when she was 6 till she was, almost a legal adult, a legal adult in the United States, I should say. She almost, I said, for those of you that are going to come out and be like, you said 17. Till she's almost legal adult. This whole time, she's been a shell of herself, just mired in this trauma, which in the movie does a really beautiful job of like depicting this, right? She's like, there's people in town are talking. She lives in this super rural town, like kind of like close but quite still far off, like from Tokyo, a good train ride, like a good long train ride away from Tokyo kind of thing. And people in the small town talked about her mom, how she basically just left her own child here alone to save another stranger's child. And it's so interesting because like the first thing I thought is like, what a peculiar way to have this character lose her mom. Like, it's not like mom got sick and died. Like, normally it's terminal illness or whatever. No, it's just straight up like her mom was a freaking hero, I guess. And it was to her detriment, which totally sucks. But it's a really difficult thing, right? And dad is very, like, mom provided all the warmth, all the close connection, and so Suzu basically feels alone, and dad does his best, but it's not his approach of love is like, I'll be here when you're ready, as opposed to like, let me embrace you right now. It's more like I will offer my hand time and time again, but I won't just like directly. And I'm guessing mom was more like the direct hands-on. So Suzu becomes very lonely. She has, she's friends with the girls in school, acquaintances, but she has her one really good friend, Hiro. And one day after going karaokeing and realizing, so she sang, let me backtrack. Suzu sang with her mom. And when her mom died, she basically just couldn't really sing anymore. And for a long time, she hasn't sung. She's written many songs, but she can't really sing. And one day after getting invited to like a karaoke party or something, and realizing that like singing physically makes her ill, she gets this invite to become part of a virtual world. So kind of like the metaverse, except the difference is that it's not just like VR, there's a body sharing technology. So it's like you can actually enter, it's called the world of you, via this body sharing technology. So you feel everything, right? And when things happen to you in the real world, it reflects to your avatar, which is called an AS. And the whole point is like you, the world of you and your AS, it's the software. It creates an AS for you. You don't create your own avatar. The software scans your memories and your being basically in its entirety and creates this thing that you can either say yes or no to. And it also is supposed to like pull out all of your strengths. So you can present your best self in the world of you. So one of the things that, the software does is it turns Chizu's freckles into these markings that I have put on my face with makeup and gives her this like gorgeous pink hair, this like gorgeous face, whatever. And when she gets into the world of you, she realizes that she can sing. And just being able to sing, she lets out this beautiful grieving song called Gales of Song. And she becomes like a you pop star sensation. And through becoming this pop star sensation, one day she's giving a concert, or about to, in the world of you, and these like superhero sort of like police, like you self-appointed police characters are chasing this other character called the Dragon or the Beast. Hello. Oh yeah, by the way, Chizu names herself as Belle. Her avatar is named Belle, and so Belle. And then the Beast, right? The Dragon. So, and in this encounter, she wonders why these, self-appointed police people called the Justices are coming after this guy. In this encounter, she also learns that one of the Justices, their leader, Justin, what a name, right? Love it. Justin, he has this like device that unveils people. So basically, it would show who you actually are in the real world as opposed to your AS if he points this at you. And it's like a big deal. Nobody wants to get unveiled because the whole point of living in the world of you, right, is like to be someone and something that you don't get to be in the real world. And your avatar, there's like, I love the diversity of avatars, like so many different avatars of different looks, all kinds of things. I love Hiro's avatar. It's so cute. She's like this little creature. It's adorable. Anyway, the Beast, she gets very curious. Her concert is interrupted and, things go down, but he seems to be a very strong character. And she asks what his deal is. And, someone basically explains like he came into the fighting arenas because there's like the world of you is kind of like TikTok, right? There's like different areas of it. And so I guess there's an area where it's like fighting. And they were saying that he entered the fighting arenas and that he's just incredibly aggressive and he doesn't stop at the tap out. The quote from the movie is like, he doesn't stop until the data breaks down. So it's almost like he's fighting people so hard that it's like he's fighting till their code breaks, which I'm guessing, it's probably very similar to like after you KO someone to keep hitting them. So I understand like why people are probably upset with him in regards to that. But all Belle kind of feels is like curiosity. She wonders who this person really is. And she becomes kind of hell-bent on learning that. And so in this like second act of the movie, we go into, sorry, I keep accidentally hitting the mic. We go into kind of like this journey of finding out who the Beast is, who the Dragon is. And we go through these different people online. And eventually we actually learn that it's this like 14-year-old boy who's getting severely abused by his father. Oh shit. I'm so sorry. Trigger warning. I'll have to put like a little trigger warning before this, but I'm sorry about that. Trigger warning, domestic violence. I feel like I just got demonetized. God, I say this every video. I really do, because I genuinely don't know. I feel like YouTube censors the really interesting things. Should I say DV? I don't know. Anyway. Yeah, I guess from now on I'll say DV. I'm sorry. Trigger warning, DV. Yeah, I had a real hard time with that part of the movie. Basically, yeah, and turns out to be this 14-year-old boy who basically, like, the world of you drew out, just like with Chizu, kind of like drew out all the strength, the emotional strength that he possesses inside him, because of him dealing with his abusive father, and essentially having to protect his brother from this abuse. So instead of, letting his brother get hit, he covers his brother while his father abuses him. And that's what causes, like, the bruises on his back. And they mention that in the movie, that the beast has, like, bruises on his back and stuff. And there's a scene, a really heartbreaking scene, where it's like, you don't know what's happening in that scene, but once you've seen the movie once, when you watch it again, you, like, realize what's happening. And the bruises, like, fresh bruises start to show up. It's, like, really bizarre, really sad at the same time. So anyway, Beast turns out to be this, like, 14-year-old boy who really needs help. Him and his brother really need help because they're in a DV situation. And Chizu essentially ends up, like, hell-bent on helping them. And she does. And through this journey, she finds closure and peace with her mom being gone and the way that she left. Right? A lot of critiques on this film that I found from the YouTube reviewers that I've been mentioning was, like, how the Beauty and the Beast storyline felt shoehorned in. Why was she so interested in this kid? Whatever. And while I do agree with, like, what was so interesting about the Beast, when being there when her concert got interrupted, like, what was so interesting about that entire interaction to, like, literally make her be obsessed with him? I don't know. But with that small criticism aside, because she's a teenage girl, and who the hell knows what teenage girl is? Like, who knows, man, what sparks an obsession in a teenage girl. I was a teenage girl, and I can't even answer that question, honestly. But with that aside, it is through her, like, completely altruistic desire to help these two boys that she doesn't even know, that she comes to understand why her mother would have risked and lost her life to save another human being and left Chizu on this planet without her. So I don't feel like the Beauty and the Beast storyline was, like, shoehorned in or unnecessary. In fact, I feel that without that, we don't, like, without that storyline, Suzu's mom might as well have just been terminally ill and died that way. Whereas the way that she died and Suzu's whole journey in helping Kei and Tomo, that's their names, that they go hand in hand. If she doesn't help Kei and Tomo, if she doesn't put herself in that line of fire for other beings that she perceives to need her help, then she doesn't understand why her mother would have done that and left her. Now, it's really interesting, too, because, some of the criticisms of the townspeople is, like, leaving her daughter all alone to save a stranger's child. And it's like, she didn't leave Chizu all alone. Obviously, no one is going to replace Chizu's mom. However, it's like the choir ladies are some of my favorite characters. True, like, wise women looking after Chizu, even when Chizu doesn't realize it. Shinobu, always looking after Chizu. And their relationship is very sweet. Yeah. Anyways, I feel like that was super long. Basically, at the end, Chizu finds her voice. She can sing again. It's beautiful, and the world of you has learned something. It's learned to bring a little bit more kindness and love to the internet, and who doesn't love that? So let's get into the details. The things that I took notes on in particular. So I love how the world of you and the real world were stylistically very different. and distinguished from one another to set the tone of each one. In fact, my friend who told me to get on this film told me that Disney animators had a hand in the world of you, whereas like Asian animators were fully in charge of the rural, real world sets and scenes, and that makes a lot of sense, and it definitely shows, and it was awesome. I loved the contrast. You could also tell too, because in the world of you, you have a lot of 3D animation like worked into it, whereas the real world is depicted in 2D. So I love all that. The pacing was really intriguing, with starting at the U Millennium Parade and then going back in time to show Suzu's mom's sacrifice in her childhood, and up until Chizu becomes Belle, and then catching us up. It's, it's funny. This is a criticism that some had, and for me, I actually thought that was a really intriguing way to tell the story, because we start when Belle is already, la la la, whatever, when she's like already a sensation. She's part of the U Millennium Parade, and she's a star. Right. And so we get to experience a little bit of that and get to kind of like see where Chizu is currently, to then get thrust back in time to see how this all makes sense and how she becomes Belle. And I thought that was really intriguing. It's really interesting to note that the song that she tries to sing before puking after the karaoke thing is the song from the end of the movie, A Million Miles Away. Because she starts to sing Life Glimmer. Wait. Yeah, I think it's Life Glimmers. No. Something. I can't think of it now. I'm so sorry. But it's A Million Miles Away, and that was cool. Also, the instrumental song behind the montage with her mom is A Million Miles Away. So that was cute. Appreciate showing us. Oh, okay. This was another thing, right? Another thing that someone criticized that I actually really appreciated, because I'm the person that would have wondered that information. So Chizu, basically, from when her mom died and she was like 6 up until her 17th year of life, is like totally a shell of a person. Basically doesn't really have a social life, right? So the world of you needs a picture of you in order to like create an AS. And I would have been the person to be like, well, how is this girl getting recent pictures if she's not out there socializing and like even wanting to take pictures of herself? So they show her a very comical little scene where she ends up in a photo with some girls in her class, and that's what the world of you ends up using. And then I love how her freckles end up getting expressed in her AS. I thought it was super cute. Obviously, I put it on my face today. I appreciate that the movie shows the ugly side of the internet without being overbearing. They do it in a very realistic manner. Like, I love the internet discourse in the movie. It's really, really interesting. Like, for example, like when Belle first comes on the scene and someone is just kind of like, how interesting. And then the second someone goes, I mean, she's not even that good, everybody just goes, oh yeah, that's right. I mean, her songs, like, my favorite line is like, well, her songs are great. Like, arrangement sucks, but her song's great. And, like how people get basically just, I don't know, kind of like trying to make themselves sound like they know what they're talking about when there's not even enough information present for us to make like a good assessment. There are many times in the movie where the internet is portrayed very realistically, and I really appreciate that. As she flourishes in you, she begins to open up in real life, and that becomes very evident by a little montage that is shown. And I love that. Like, this movie is all about show, don't tell. And I really, really, truly appreciated that. Oh, yes. Okay. So, an evidence to show us that she kind of begins to open up in real life, too, as she flourishes in you as Belle, is this really, really comical scene with the character Kamishin and Ruka. it's again, some like, honestly, the people who brought out these criticisms, I'm genuinely like, maybe, I don't know, maybe this movie just wasn't for you, or maybe, I don't know. I don't know, because what people had to criticize, I loved, honestly. Like the scene with Kamishin and Ruka, it's like this scene where like the writing is just brilliant, because of a scene that happened before. Again, it's like the script is so skilled at just setting up and paying off, setting up and paying off. And it's brilliant. That scene had me laughing out loud. I can't, if I sit here and describe it, we're going to be here for another like 30 minutes. So I'm not going to describe the scene, but it's the scene like in the train station looking area with Kamishin and Ruka, and it's freaking hysterical. I was dying, but it's a scene that very much shows us how just more aware of the world around her and the people around her Chizu is becoming. And of course, this is in large part, if not all, thanks to her flourishing in the world of view. I definitely didn't see the DV coming. That was rough. I did not see that coming, but when it came, whew, oof. Let's see. Okay, so in being willing to unveil herself, which unveiling themselves is seen as like the ultimate sacrifice, right, in the world of you, to like show who you are in the real world, to everybody in you. For Kei and Tomo, Chizu comes to understand her mom's sacrifice in putting herself in the line of fire for these people that she doesn't know but feels like she knows, in the sense that they are humans in need, right? And she could sense that from Kei, from the very first moment that he crashed her concert as the dragon. She could sense that there was something off about him, that he was in need. Right? And in sacrificing herself for them, she actually, or not sacrificing because she ends up fine, but in putting herself in the line of fire for them, she ends up ultimately understanding her mom's sacrifice. When she realizes this, her heart energy becomes visible as she quite literally sings from the heart, inspiring the hearts of those in the crowd to glow too. This is one of the most beautiful scenes in the movie. And this is the moment, right, where Suzu's been unveiled and she is singing. She's singing a million miles away in hopes of getting Tomo and Kei to trust her. And that's my only explanation for what happens in that moment. This like light starts to twinkle over her chest, and it gets brighter. And as the audience sings with her, their little heart lights also glow brighter. It's genuinely just so beautiful, literally and figuratively. Oh, this is an interesting thing. So another commentary that this movie makes is how the internet kind of is run by corporations and sponsorships. So, for example, Justin, the head of the Justices, he's like, everyone looks up to him because he's got all these sponsorships. But after Justin unveils Chizu, and Chizu, doesn't run away, but rather shows herself even more, these sponsorships are quick to just pull out from helping Justin, because corporations are just basically, what did I say? Are always, I really wish I could read this word. Wow, that's the first. But anyways, yeah, so corporations are really interesting because they back Justin, right, when he's almighty, but then they pull out just as fast when his whole unveiling thing doesn't end up panning out the way that he sees it panning out. And Chizu ends up celebrated as opposed to shunned. It's pretty cool to see everybody's avatars. Like I said, like the choir ladies, their avatars are super cool. All the avatars in the world of you are very cool. the fact that Chizu ends up being a humanoid is really interesting to me, and probably just because, they wanted the main character to be very relatable. So they were like, okay, we're going to give her some funky markings, but for the most part, she's going to look like a real girl. Whereas so many avatars are just like, what? How? But man, it's super creative, and I appreciate it. The sleuthing is a little insane. Okay, that was one of the parts that, like, when people were criticizing it, I was like, yeah, okay, like, the sleuthing. But it's okay. It's just to get us from point A to point B, but it was crazy. Okay, it was a little crazy. Let's see. So, Shinobu. Oh, yeah, okay. So I love that it was super cute that Shinobu was like a champion for Chizu ever since her mom died, and basically has been like watching out for her since her mom died. And he's a champion for her helping these boys. He's a champion for her singing as herself in You. He's a champion. Like, he is just a champion for her. And I love that. I love that so much. Dad's kind words are everything when Chizu goes to help the boys. It's definitely interesting to me that, I mean, I guess she's 17, so, But I don't know. It's, like, really interesting to me that she's, like, going so far to do this thing that nobody really knows. It's, like, you would think that she wouldn't go alone. It's, like, I don't know. But then again, this might also be, like, a cultural difference where, like, maybe Japan is, like, super safe like that. I don't know. But basically she's on a train to Tokyo to go find the boys and help them, and tells her dad that she's got to go do something, and he basically just sends her this really sweet text that says that she trusts him, or he trusts her, and just be the kind girl that her mom raised her to be, basically, and she'll be okay. Which I cried. That was a really sweet moment. Yeah, again, sleuthing, crazy. Don't know how she found the condo, but she found it. Going back in time in the movie, that moment when she goes to kiss the dragon after they have their moment with her song that she sings and stuff, and she goes for the hug instead. I thought that was really sweet. Very sweet. And then it works really well, too, because when she's protecting them from their dad, when she ends up finding them, and their dad comes out and, like, basically, like, is gonna aggress them, right? And she hugs them and protects them. That's, like, when Kay really, really, really knows that she is Belle and she's there to help them. Because that's another thing, is, like, that was one part of the movie that I thought was a little bit goofy, was, like, Kay's monologue on the help. I think that line could have been rewritten a little bit better, but then again, they were probably just trying to make the dub look okay, so I understand. So the way they framed Kay and Tomo's dad's wrist with the watch looked a lot like the framing of Justin with his unveiling thing that was also on his wrist. So I'm wondering if maybe they're the same person, because I also find it really difficult to believe that Tomo and Kay's dad wouldn't have just hit Chizu as well. Like, he already hit his own children. There's this like scrawny 17-year-old girl, like, what's gonna stop him from hitting her to get her out of the way to get his kids back? But if he's Justin and he just saw everything go down and he knows now that Chizu is Belle, he might just be, shocked and shit and not hit her at all. So I thought that was interesting, and maybe that's what they were alluding to in that moment. In fact, this explanation would satisfy me, because that was something that I wasn't sure of. Like, I was like, what? He would have just hit her. A man who's already violent with his own children. Are you kidding? No, he would have just, not a man, a person who's already violent with his own children. Like, no, he would have just hit her. But not if he's Justin. He might have thought twice. Tomo is the first one to tell Belle she's beautiful and a good singer in the world of you as Angel, which I thought was really sweet. Especially because, you know, everyone is like, ew, what a weird song. I'm back, Dad. That line that Chizu says, it means so much more than just, you know, I'm back from Tokyo. And that's heartwarming. It was a very heartwarming moment. So ending the movie with her saying yes to singing with the people she loves is perfect. I was absolutely just perfect. That was perfect. Because this whole journey is about her reclaiming herself and her voice. And where in the beginning she didn't even want to talk, much less sing. Now she's game. I love her and Shinobu's relationship. It's very sweet. And I love that once she, like, you know, finds her shit again at the end of the movie and she's like herself again, he's like, man, this is what I've always wanted. I've always wanted us to just have fun together, and we can do that now. And I thought that was cute. That epic shot of the sun coming out of the thick clouds with gales of song, guide me through the storm. The lyrics, her singing the lyrics in the background. Just that the gales of song, guide me through the storm. That part, sing like in the background. Right, it's like right in the end of the movie too. She's like looking in the sky, and there's, God, you just can't miss it. It's beautiful, so freaking symbolic of how she's like been in a cloud since her mom died, and she's finally coming out like the sun. It's just freaking awesome. Shinobu's supporting her till the very last second. Like, you can do it. I already said this, but I just love that. I just love that. I love their relationship. I love that they're friends, but you can tell that, like, I don't know. I just would be very surprised if they didn't at least, like, a date for a while, you know? The magic, quote, quote, magic with AI and emotions regarding, like, the glowing hearts and the secret roses. I thought that was really cool. I thought that was, like, a really interesting way of incorporating the magical element, right, of Beauty and the Beast, because in the world of you, like, so many things are possible. So why not your emotion come out in these interesting magical ways? I mean, magic being code, but still, right? Love the choir of wise women. Just love them so much. I wish we got to see how Kei and Tomo get, like, permanently saved from their dad. But I am aware that, like, when Chizu comes back from Tokyo, she has a Band-Aid on her face from where Tomo and Kei's dad scratched her. And that should tell us, like, she's taken them somewhere and, you know, she was tended to. But I do wish that we, like, got a little bit of, like, a, like, where they went from there kind of moment from Kei and Tomo. Just so we know that they're safe for the most part, forever kind of thing. Again, I already said it, but I'm going to say it again. I love the ending. It's simple and it closes out our story with hope. In an open-ended way without feeling, you know, like they're not giving us closure. And at the beginning of this, I said, you know, it's a beautiful ending if you're clocked into the real story. And when I say the real story, it's not necessarily that, you know, the Beauty and the Beast aspect and all those things aren't real. It's just, we have to remember that at the core, this is Suzu's journey to regain herself and her voice. And so for it to end with, you know, her having gone through all that to understand the trauma, to better understand her mom and her decisions that led to her death and those things, to then end in this place where it's just her people, and a request of, do you want to sing the lead? And for a character that could not get a sound out without puking and breaking down, to now just nonchalantly go, yeah. It's brilliant and it's beautiful, and I was deeply, deeply touched. If you've seen one of my recent episodes that I did or listened to it on the podcast about my singing voice and finding my singing voice, and how that kind of also turned into me finding myself in a lot of ways, you'll know that this movie probably had a lot of deep meanings for me. And it did. It really did. I thought it was awesome. What a journey. The music is just absolutely gorgeous. And I do believe that it deserves the hype that it got. But I also see where a lot of it might not be for some people, especially people that aren't, like, really super deep into the anime sphere, where things can be quirky and done a little bit differently. And yeah, I also feel like there's a great disservice done to this film by people kind of putting it out with this idea of like, oh, it's Beauty and the Beast but anime, because it also takes away from the fact that this is not the story of Kei and Suzu. This is Suzu's story, and Kei just happens to be like, Kei and Tomo just happen to be a very big part of helping her find herself in this story, if that makes sense. Thank you so much for sticking to the end of this video, or if you're listening on the podcast, thank you so much for listening to the end. It's a long one, but I love this movie, and if you feel so inclined to check it out, if you haven't already, go ahead. Again, if you want to check out the music as well, it's absolutely gorgeous. And yeah, if you have not checked them out yet, I've done some reaction videos to one of my favorite animes of all time, Inuyasha. I'm doing an anime rewatch series. I'm going through season 1 right now. So we are currently on episode 2. Episode 3 is going to be coming out pretty soon if it hasn't already. And yeah, we're going to go until season 1 is over. And then after that, I'll probably take a little break. But check out those episodes if you are interested. If you're on the podcast, those are YouTube exclusive, obviously, because they are visual as I'm reacting to a show. So yeah, check those out. Again, may I remind you, you can go to calendly.com/mysticalmac to book a tarot reading. You can also go to the link in the description, whether you're on the podcast or on YouTube. And please help me out on my road to growing my YouTube channel to my first 1,000 subscribers, to getting it monetized, and growing my podcast so that we can create a community here with Embodying Mystical Mac, and we can perpetuate a kinder, softer, more aware world where we still hold each other accountable. We're just not dicks about it, So subscribe, leave a comment. If this is the podcast for you, please follow, please review. It's all very appreciated. And stay mystical, stay grounded. I will catch you next time. La 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 la, when our heartbeats collide, I will mind in a place we've never been before. I can't stop singing it. Okay, bye. Mwah.